Hey everyone, this is Ring Authority News, your home for non-stop WWE energy. Subscribe now, and let's dive right into the ring. A hush has fallen over one of wrestling's proudest families, a dynasty whose legacy once felt unshakable. For decades, their name carried the weight of legends, from the heroes who conquered arenas in the past to the modern-day champions who carried that fire forward. But today, that lineage stands in stillness. What began as murmurs on fan forums, scattered whispers about missed shows and sudden absences, soon grew into something that no storyline could contain. The man who had embodied strength for millions, who had been called the tribal chief and head of the table, was now simply a father, a husband, a son. Human, vulnerable, and in need of help. The silence surrounding the family was no longer dramatic. It was devastating. When the curtain fell, at first fans believed it was just another carefully crafted break in the story, a moment to build anticipation, a clever twist in a long-running saga. After all, wrestling has always thrived on mystery, and silence often meant that something bigger was coming. But this time, the quiet stretched too long. Days passed without posts, weeks without appearances, and soon that silence became unbearable. It wasn't the suspense of a new rivalry, it was the sound of reality creeping in. When the curtain fell, it wasn't a finale. It was a moment of reckoning. The man whose presence could fill an arena had disappeared not into a new feud, but into the fragile space where health, family, and hope all hang in the balance. The family at the bedside. For the first time in years, the family that built its legacy under bright lights gathered in dim, private corners. There were no microphones, no cameras, just the quiet hum of hospital machinery and whispered prayers. Cousins, uncles, siblings, faces familiar to fans as performers and champions, sat shoulder to shoulder, holding hands, clinging to faith. The pride that had carried them through decades of glory now gave way to shared fear. Each family member brought their own strength to the bedside, a memory, a prayer, a silent vow. It wasn't about titles or triumphs anymore. It was about one man, one heartbeat, and the family that refused to let go. The weight of unsaid things. In moments like these, truths begin to surface. Those who had worked closest with him admitted they'd noticed the signs long before. The fatigue, the quiet withdrawals, the exhaustion masked behind the rehearsed confidence. He had said he was fine, as men like him often do, shouldering more than anyone realized. He had given everything to the image of invincibility, carrying not just a company, but a legacy built on expectation. Behind the cheers and accolades, he was fighting a quieter battle, the toll of years spent proving himself unbreakable. And now, that silence, the silence of what he didn't say, hung over everyone like a ghost. Pride, duty, and the cost of silence. There's a code in families like his, a proud tradition passed down through generations of warriors. Never show weakness, never back down, never let them see you hurt. It's a creed that builds champions but sometimes breaks people. He had lived by that code his whole life, turning pain into performance and fear into fuel. But now the very thing that made him a legend was what left him exposed. His refusal to slow down, to admit exhaustion, had become a heavy burden. In this crisis, the family began to see the hidden cost of strength, the quiet suffering that comes from always needing to be the rock for everyone else. The community responds. Across the wrestling world, the response was immediate and heartfelt. Rivals put aside storylines, colleagues sent messages of love and strength, and fans flooded social media with prayers and memories. From candlelit vigils outside arenas to simple tweets from fellow wrestlers, the community showed its truest side. Wrestling, at its heart, has always been a family. sometimes loud, sometimes divided, but bound by respect. And in this moment, the spectacle faded and humanity took center stage. The same fans who once cheered for victories now stood united in hope, proving that admiration for a hero doesn't end when the spotlight dims. It deepens. Rituals of comfort and hope. In Samoa and across the islands that birthed this legendary lineage, old traditions came alive again. Families gathered in circles, elders lit torches, and soft chants rose into the night air. It wasn't about fame or celebrity. It was about ancestry, about calling upon those who came before to guide and protect one of their own. Even thousands of miles away, fans joined in their own ways. Small home altars, quiet prayers, messages written in gold ink. These rituals, sacred and simple, reminded everyone that behind every modern story lies something timeless. A belief that love, faith, and community can carry us through even the darkest hours. Children caught in the crossfire. Amid all the chaos and worry, the smallest hearts bore the heaviest confusion. His children, too young to understand the scale of the world's concern, only knew that their father wasn't home. They asked questions that no adult could answer cleanly. They drew pictures, whispered prayers, and waited for the sound of a familiar laugh. Family members tried to shield them, to smile through the fear, but even children can sense when something is wrong. Their quiet presence became the emotional center of it all, a reminder that beyond the global headlines and fan tributes, there is a home waiting, a family hoping, and a little girl and two boys who just want their dad back. Questions that will not stay quiet. As the days stretched on, whispers turned into reflection. Was the pressure too much? Could the long travel, the physical toll, the endless expectation of perfection have played a part? No one wanted blame. Only understanding. It was a wake-up call, not just for one family, but for an entire industry built on endurance. How do we protect the people who entertain us when their health begins to falter? How do we create space for vulnerability in a world that demands constant strength? Those questions lingered, uncomfortable but necessary, marking a shift from spectacle to self-awareness across the wrestling world. The pause on business as usual. Inside WWE headquarters, things changed. Storylines were paused, promotional calendars cleared. The focus shifted from scripts to silence, from how to continue the show to how to give space for healing. Writers, producers, and wrestlers alike agreed. This wasn't about ratings anymore. The entire company felt the weight of reality, and in a rare moment of unity, business bowed to humanity. For an industry that prides itself on "the show must go on," this pause was unprecedented and deeply needed. A reckoning and a remembrance. Whatever happens next, whether this chapter ends in recovery or remembrance, the story has already transformed into something larger. It's a mirror held up to all of us, asking what we expect from our heroes and what happens when they can no longer carry those expectations. It's a lesson in empathy, in speaking up, in caring for those who seem unbreakable. The Anoaʻi family's strength has always been measured in unity, and that hasn't changed. What's different now is the awareness that true strength sometimes means vulnerability. It means saying, "I'm not okay." It means letting the world see that even giants need rest. And in that realization, perhaps the legacy of this family, the dynasty that gave wrestling its greatest warriors, has found its most human chapter yet.